Back when I reviewed Scarlet and Violet close to launch, I made a mistake so bad and so unprofessional that to this day, I can't believe I didn't see how awful it was until pretty recently. When reviewing Scarlet and Violet, I didn't complete the latest game in the series. I guess at the time, I didn't see Legends as that important. My mind put it into the Mystery Dungeon / Coliseum / XD box. I played it a while, saw Game Freak could actually make something original, and closely followed every new Gen 9 reveal, assuming Legends was something I should spend time on later down the road, when I'd really run out of stuff to do in the larger, more important game. When in reality, my job as a reviewer is partially to compare new games to what came before. And not just Legends either. I've openly admitted more than once that I completely dropped off of Pokemon from Soul Silver all the way to Let's Go Eevee, with most of my post-Sinnoh knowledge coming from Go. And recently, when I came back to look at where Pokemon is now, including the new big game announcement, well, let's just say there's a lot that I got wrong. I've never done this before, but I really feel like I need to do right by the people. It's comment response time! Yes, right there, if you look to your left, you can see one such instance of my extended hiatus from the series catching up to bite me. You'd think with the time since the Pokemon Day announcements and the reveal of the new game, the least I could have done was actually finish Y version before mocking the title. And yeah, it does suck to get spoiled to the plot of the game I'm currently playing via a comment. But let's be real, I absolutely deserve it. Well, I still think the title is pretty silly. Personally, you could stack all the reasons for calling it this in front of me, but if I was in charge of this game's title, I'd still call it Pokémon Legends Z. Sometimes simpler, more elegant titles are just better. But I will 100% take the blame for not catching the reference. No, you're wrong about that, as proven by the multiple other commenters rightfully telling you off. Game releases used to happen much less coherently worldwide, which is why this kind of wording is necessary to make it very clear when it's coming out. I think a separate Legends Z and A would have been a cool idea, don't get me wrong, but I really want to be careful with suggesting that two versions is better for the consumer. One of the things I saw praised about the Arceus game many times was the fact that it was one game you could buy and actually complete on your own merit without having to get stuff from another version. Yeah, this is probably the most embarrassing mistake I've ever made in my life. Way back when the new games first came out, I wanted to see if these two Pokemon would be in the game. They were not. Keep in mind that this was pre-DLC and definitely pre-home compatibility. Given that the full National Dex is no longer in these games, I guess when they added home compatibility, I just assumed these guys wouldn't make it in. This comment quickly made me do some updated research and, wouldn't you know it, Verdier and Ursaluna are in the game, and you actually can get the latter through an in-game quest. A different Ursaluna, but still. I guess me missing this fact and going off of outdated knowledge is proof right there that I was being completely honest about just how done I was with Gen 9. I couldn't even finish everything in the Teal Mask before not playing Indigo Disc when it came out. You know, I'm kind of right about this one still because I was just talking about the main storyline. Historically, since I think Fire Red and Leaf Green, the Elite Four gets stronger with harder rematch teams, so having a harder version of the champion is no new feature. Still though, had I actually played Indigo Disc, I would have commented on it. My bad. I do really like this comment though because it's very thoughtful and takes into consideration that bonus content does not automatically absolve the base game of its shortcomings. It feels like it was made more to add to the discussion than anything else, and these are my favorite types of comments. Okay, now, I try to be as fair and balanced as a journalist as I can be, so without me diving down that dramatic rabbit hole, I will say that I had no idea that this company in particular had a hand in gaming. Thank you for bringing this to light. You'd think this would be common knowledge considering how fucking terrible this company is, but nobody else has ever pointed this out to me. and I never bothered to do much research into who exactly was behind Pokemon Unite. And shame on me for not knowing better. Here I am on the main page of the official website, and I just scrolled to the bottom. Bam, there it is. Thank you for your kind service, commenter. I now know that if anyone tries to get me into Unite, I can instead stop on a dime and avoid it like the plague. I promise the only time I'll ever engage with this game is if I actually review it, but don't count on that because there are a million other things I'd rather spend my time reviewing instead of this. Oh, and literally less than a week after I pretty much said I was done with Pokémon Go for good, with a slight chance of maybe possibly playing it again sometime in the future, well, I'm happy to inform the world that I no longer have to worry about ever playing Pokémon Go ever again in my life. In a series of escalating bad decisions, Niantic has tried over and over again to make sure that they will kill off their once cultural zeitgeist. If I even tried to scratch the surface, that would be an entire university seminar. But they finally did it. Those madmen. The end of the Pokemon Go saga is finally here. And what an end. Here, check out the live footage of them delivering the latest update to Pokemon Go. And there it goes. Great job, Niantic. You have officially killed your game. This game is dead. It's been dead for the better part of a year at this point. Please stop playing it. There are a million other things worth spending time and money on. Thank you, Niantic. For what I used to spend on community days and inventory upgrades, thanks to you making your game so fucking terrible and repulsive, I can now put that same money into a monthly gym membership and accomplish more in real life than your stupid mobile game app. Fuck you, Niantic. I hope you go under and Pokemon Company drops you like the posers you are. And with that, I'm now absolved of my sins. Let me dispel my past regrets into the fire and go forth without the curse of Dracula following my Pokemon adventure or something. So anyways, I started playing Legends Arceus for the first time since Gen 9 came out, and wow. It's kind of shocking to play an open-world Pokemon game on the Switch that actually feels like a professional product. So shocking, in fact, that just one play session in, I already saw a night and day difference between this and Gen 9. Now I know, I've barely even gotten into the game yet, so how am I the authority to say this game is objectively better? Well, I mean, every game has its core gameplay. I've experienced a lot of the core gameplay of Gen 9, and I've experienced little of the core gameplay of Legends Arceus. So, doesn't that say something when just barely past the tutorial section of this game, I already have so much more praise about it than that other open world 3D Pokemon game? I kind of want to do this to make a point, okay? There is no bias here. If anything, this is a major case of, oh boy, I really took this game for granted when it was the latest game, and I should have spent my time playing this instead of sitting around waiting for Gen 9 to come out. So here it is, my list of things Legends Arceus does that Scarlet and Violet don't. Let's have a gander. Number 1. Cool looking, stylistic graphics. While Legends Arceus may not be a good example of what the Switch is or is not capable of doing with 3D graphics, I think it actually looks really good. This game has incredibly rock-solid artistic direction and intent through and through, even down to the painting-like cover art and the cold blue and green logo. Generally, my rule for graphics is this. If the graphical fidelity of a game is enough for the artistic direction to work and be good to look at, then it's doing fine. These are 3D graphics going for somewhat realism, but the way they're shaded and lit gives them a more painting-like and layered look. In any given scene, the game displays everything through a strong universal light and color that washes over everything and makes it feel like it's on the same canvas. And it treads the line perfectly between slightly muted and dull, giving it that rustic vibe that it's obviously going for. There's also this icy sheen applied to a lot of textures, which adds a little extra bit of color, but I'm not sure if I like how prevalent it is. At least so far, I'm still barely into the game. We'll see. but I can say I definitely like looking at this game. Definitely a lot more than Scarlet and Violet 2. Number 2. The trees! No, not the Rush song. I mean the actual trees. Right off the bat, in the first screen of gameplay, as the camera pans around, look at these trees! They're rustling in the breeze. It's little details like this that add up fast. Compare that to the moment where Scarlet and Violet do that sweeping shot across the landscape where the player is supposed to get pumped to explore Paldea. I'm sorry, but those trees are just depressing. Get this landscape out of here. I want to exist in this one, thank you. I'll take my Arceus trees. They're fuller, thicker, leafier, and objectively better than whatever this is. I'm not going to mention every possible scenic detail to compare right now. I think the trees pretty much sum it up the best. Number 3. Side quests. Pokemon has always had side quests, but Legends really emphasizes them as a secondary completion goal. I have yet to find out how in-depth these get, but the fact that they're even here and conveniently numbered, I have some optimism that throughout my playthrough they'll be a good distraction. Gen 9 has barely anything one could count as side quest material. One thing that's always integral to a good game world, especially one with RPG mechanics, is situations that make the player feel like they have some means to make a difference in the world on their own. Coming back to this game, man, Scarlet and Violet dropped the ball. Number 4. Wild Pokemon behavior. Okay, so this is like one of the core standout features that this entire game is based on. It's why the final tutorial task is to catch one of 3 different Pokemon one after another. Each of these, Bidoof, Starly, and Shinx, have different levels of alertness and aggression. You need to treat these like actual creatures. Their spawn patterns feel less rigid, and they don't pop into existence constantly in front of the player. And you have to be aware of them. The cool thing about this game is that it made a pretty good attempt to solve the problem of danger in the overworld. Without random encounters, you can just walk around them and avoid them, like in Scarlet and Violet. In this game, you are encouraged to be aware and react. If a Pokemon sees you, that affects what you do next. Sometimes you'll have to throw your own Pokemon out to do battle in an act of self-defense, which, when you think about it, isn't that the entire point of the whole series as established in the very first games, when Oak won't let you go anywhere without a Pokemon by your side? You send your Pokemon out to protect you from danger because... Number 5. You, the trainer, can get hurt in this game. I love that a Pokemon game finally implemented this as a gameplay feature. Sure, it's pretty basic here, but man, the fact that wild Pokemon can and will pose a physical threat to you really does make going anywhere in this game automatically feel so much more immersive. The world of Pokemon is cool and fascinating, but it can also be brutal and unforgiving. And whatever you do, don't get the attention of the wrong one. This was the lesson Ash learned in his very first episode. And it was this incident brought about by his foolish behavior and ultimately his redemption that brought his Pikachu close to him. Just like in Scarlet and Violet, does it actually mean anything to see a wild Pokemon near you? Meanwhile, here it affects my gameplay. Hands down, this game wins. Number 6. Grass. Ah yes, one of the key features of any Pokemon game's terrain. And it's brought back in this game, but with the drastic shift in gameplay, it's repurposed appropriately. Here, you see grass, you jump in it to avoid being seen, stay in the grass, stay out of sight, make your next move from relative safety. You know, it's cool how in this game the player relationship with grass is like the inverse of what it was in the traditional games. In the old games, grass equals danger. Here, grass equals safety. Grass affects how you explore and interact with wild Pokemon. Scarlet and Violet doesn't adapt the grass at all. Too much work apparently. How lame. Number 7. The implementation of music. I really like how they implemented the overworld music in this game. In a game like this, you need atmosphere. So sometimes you get just that, atmospheric ambience. Then, as you play, the music comes and goes. Kind of like the new Zelda games, but way less minimalist. Yet another reason why Paldea lacks the atmosphere this world has. Run around Paldea and you're gonna hear that same 2-minute loop of overworld music over and over again, and you're gonna like it. Which is a shame because there are some things about how they implemented music in Gen 9 I really like. I'm also not saying Gen 9 has bad music, but I think this game is so much more tasteful with how it uses music and how it implements it. End of story. Number 8. Wild Pokemon can attack in groups. Yeah, this is really cool and makes sense realistically. I love this feature, and it's yet another thing that just isn't in Gen 9. If you get into a battle around more than one Pokemon, be aware they will team up and go after you. Number 9. Overworld collectibles worth a damn. In this game, you benefit from picking up all sorts of stuff from around the overworld. It has a crafting system for items and makes steering out of your way to pick up something beneficial. Pokeballs, recovery, all of it, you can craft it. And they're actually a part of the overworld in natural spots, not just in generic capsules littered throughout the land. Number 10. Overall polish. This game actually runs fine. Every time a thing happens, there's a little visual flair to it. Motion blurring while zooming. The HUD elements animating in and out. Yeah, this is just objectively more complete presentation than Gen 9. It just feels like a finished product at bare minimum. Gen 9 does not. End of story. Anyways, this was kind of just a short list of things I noticed while playing through the very first moments of Legends Arceus. I fully plan on looking at the game as a whole when I'm done with it, which will hopefully be soon because, man, I'd much rather play this one than even think about finishing the Gen 9 DLC right now. That doesn't mean I'm just trying to rush out a review as fast as I can, but yeah. I promise to right all my wrongs and eventually finish and review what genuinely seems like a gem in a sea of disappointment. Until that time comes, rest easy knowing I'm ready to give this one my full attention and opinion. Finally. That was like one of the first things I ever said I'd do. Man, this is long overdue.